Hi, thank you for joining me today. My name's Peter Hand, and I'm a brand strategy lead for Google. So today, I wanted to talk a little bit about building your company's brand. And one of the best ways to build your company's brand is with really compelling and effective video creative. Now, how do you do that? Well, first of all, we know that good creative is good for business. I get asked so frequently, why is it so important that we nail the creative? We get really good video creative. We want to build a strong campaign that's going to help us build our brand. Well, we know when we actually do the research and look at the different drivers of ROI for a given campaign, that about 50% of the impact is driven by the creative. Said differently, good creative is that X factor on any given campaign that can make or break your brand building efforts. So today I want to talk to you about our core framework for building best in class and effective creative in the YouTube environment. We use a framework called the ABCDs. Now, what does that stand for? A, grabbing people's attention right up front. B, branding. How are you branding your video? How are you making sure that no matter how much time people spend with you, that work is unmistakably coming from your brand? Next, connection. How are you making people think or feel something about your business or your brand? And lastly, direction. If someone's watched your piece of video creative, where are you directing them? What are you telling them to do? All these four elements are critical to making great and compelling brand building video creative. So let's dive right into the first principle: attention. Attention. How do you grab and hook people's attention right up front? The goal should always be to hook and sustain a person's attention with an immersive story. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this, and there's no right or wrong way to hook people as long as you're trying to grab their attention in a meaningful way. But a couple of interesting ways to do it. One, dropping people right into a story, not waiting too long to create any kind of build up, no long winded intros, getting straight to the meat of it and really hooking them by dropping them right in. Next, using audio and supers to help support the story and really grab people's attention. We know that YouTube is a sound on environment. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that today. But again, using audio and visual to really grab people's attention. Next, keeping visuals bright and high contrast. We know these days when anybody's consuming a piece of video creative, they could be watching it on a lot of different devices, including a mobile device, maybe the brightness turned down. Making sure that there's enough brightness and contrast so that your work can pop even on a dimmer mobile screen is a really good way to make sure you're hooking and grabbing people's attention. Now, to start off, I wanted to show you a bit of an example that would really illustrate a really good way to hook people's attention. Let's take a quick watch.
You're not a dish. You're a man. Most name brand bars and body washes you rub on your skin are classified by the FDA as synthetic detergent. It's not even real soap.
What a fantastic example. They immediately grab your attention, both by addressing you directly, breaking that fourth wall, and also even just the drama of smashing that plate immediately hooks you in and sets the stage for you to pay attention to their message. Now, the next piece is, so you've effectively hooked someone. Now you got to make sure that people know this work is coming from you. They need to be able to link this creative message to your brand. So the next piece, B, make sure you're branding early, often, and richly. How can you make sure you're using a broad range of branding elements to show and tell your audience who you are? So what are a couple different ways to do that? So the first is making sure you're showing up early and throughout. We say it's really critical to make sure you're introducing your brand in the first 5 seconds. Why is that? Well, we know in any piece of creative, there's always going to be some audience fall off from the first second to the last second. So making sure your branding is right up front in the first 5 seconds is going to maximize your opportunity to make sure your ad is remembered and linked to you. Now, second, I already talked a little bit about audio, but again, it's important to know that YouTube is a sound on environment. We continue to see in our research that using audio reinforcement of your branding, i.e. audio brand mentions, is a really good way to boost recall. And lastly, Try to lean and leverage all of your different branding assets above and beyond just your logo. Really using all of these different unique brand identifiers like mascots and prominent brand colors can do a really good job of boosting linkage without having to slap too many logos all over your piece of video creative, almost like a NASCAR. Now, I want to share another video example I think shows a lot of different ways to brand a piece of creative effectively. Let's take a look.
Okay, so you're craving pizza, but how do you get it? You could use a fancy big chain app, but the pizza all tastes like cardboard, and cardboard tastes bad. So that brings us to option 2, delivery apps. They seem great, but then they add on their fees, and holy crap, not so great. Plus, they deliver your pizza like this, so what the heck were all those fees for? And now that's out, and it's time for option 3, get real, authentic pizza straight from a local shop. But these guys don't have apps, so you make a phone call, shout over the kids, and ooh, yeah, that tastes good. But they also misheard your order. So we thought, what if there was a fancy app that made it quick and easy to order from the best local pizzerias without the crazy fees? And so we did, and it's called Slice, and you should download it and order amazing pizza right now.
I love all the different ways that they've incorporated visual and audio branding in this piece of creative. That work from Slice is one of my favorites. Next, so we've grabbed people's attention and we've branded our piece of content appropriately. So we've set ourselves up for our best chance of people remembering that this work's coming from us. But what can we do to help people think or feel something differently about our brand? How can we create connection through the experience of our product? Well, there's a couple different ways. How to help people think or feel something about your brand? Well, one of the first tricks you can do is humanize your story. Featuring people is a really good way to help people connect with your product and your brand. Another thing that can really help your message break through, focus, focus, focus. Have a clear message and use simple and plain language to make sure it's easy for people to understand what you're trying to communicate. And lastly, engage. Leaning into emotional levers like humor and other techniques like such as surprise can do a really good job to help build that connection with a piece of creative. I've got another fantastic example for you from Next Insurance. Let's take a quick watch.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm the owner of Jamie's Suites, and I'm going to tell you why I insure my business with Next Insurance. When I first started my business, I searched high and low for an affordable and user-friendly business insurance. Everything was just so confusing or out of my budget. Until I found Next. And check out how simple it is to use. You can make changes quickly and easily, and you can get insurance on the spot. Depending on what you do, you could save up to 30%. Next does business like you do business. Because
I love the way that they humanize the story there with a product testimonial. Really, really great work and simple to do. Now, lastly, you hook people's attention. They know the work's coming from you and your brand because you branded it appropriately. And you've made them effectively think or feel something different about your brand. But they've raised their hand, they've watched all the way to the end of your piece of creative. Don't leave that intent and action on the table. Ask them to take that next action for your business or your brand with a call to action. Direct people to do exactly what you want them to do. What are a couple ways that you can help ask them to take action? Well, first, make sure you're including a clear, actionable CTA. Being very specific about what action you'd like them to do. And then on top of that, we talked about, again, the importance of using audio. Supercharge your CTA with audio. Using audio to make sure you're telling people what to do. Now, let's watch a great example from Monday.com that has such a fantastic audio CTA.
This is an ad for a project management tool called Monday.com. This is what it looks like, and this is what it feels like. So the tool works like this. We call this a board. Just put everything you need to do here, then put who's in charge of it here, and see where everything stands here. Also, it works on your phone because it's 2019. Click drag and drop to create your board exactly the way you need it. You'll never drop the ball on the important stuff again. So go to Monday.com and create your free account today.
I love that example. I always come back to it because it brings together so many of the concepts we already talked about. It really quickly grabs your attention, tons of rich branding, and then gives you a clear directive and call to action right at the end, telling you exactly what they want you to do. I love that one. Okay, so congrats. We've kind of gone through the core framework of ABCD. Let's recap quickly. A, what are you doing to hook and grab consumers' attention? Dropping them right into the story, making sure there's the appropriate brightness and contrast, and augmenting with supers. Next, branding. Make sure you're branding appropriately. How do you do that? Make sure it's early, often, and throughout. There has to be branding in the first 5 seconds. It's so critical. Make sure you're using audio where possible. Audio reinforcements of branding is so powerful. Next, connection. What are you doing to make people think or feel something about your brand? Couple things that are super helpful. Humanize the story. People connect with people. It's a great way to make people connect with your brand and business. Next, on top of that, also make sure that you're keeping your message very simple. Keep it straightforward, use natural language. And lastly, lean into emotional storytelling techniques, humor, intrigue, surprise, all great ways to help people think or feel something different about your brand or business. And lastly, direct. Again, for all those hand raisers, don't leave that attention on the table. Make sure you've got a clear and actionable CTA. Congratulations, we made it all the way through. I've given you what I feel are the top tips in our framework to make breakthrough creative to help you build your brand. Thank you so much. Appreciate you listening to my lightning talk.